From a one-stoplight town on the North Dakota plains, he mortgaged everything he had to build a major tech company, lead his state through an energy revolution, and now is helping lead the nation as the Interior Secretary of the United States. Our guest today is Doug Burgum, and his story is pure American grit. With small-town roots and big country vision, Burgum is redefining how America can balance progress and preservation, knowing America's future depends on it. From Ballard Studios' remote location in the nation's capital, it's 13th and Park.
The hard things that are necessary, we either do it or we'll pay the price down the road.
That often is missing in politics.
We have to solve everything.
It's a nightmare.
You and I can differ, but that doesn't mean you and I cannot be friends.
I have faith in the American people.
Those are the facts.
The Illuminati, right there. Aliens could have invaded and nothing would surprise me at this point.
We went from North Korea to M&M. That's a lot, man.
What's in this tea?
Mr. Secretary, great to have you on 13th and Park. Let's kind of set the table a little bit. A lot of people, when they think about Interior, they think, of course, about the national parks. They think about Yosemite and Yellowstone, the 400 plus parks. But obviously, Interior covers a lot of ground. Fish and Wildlife, the Bureau of Land Management, the United States Geological Survey. Regardless of where you live, Interior has everything to do with the air we breathe, the land we walk on, and the energy that powers our homes. So give us kind of a bottom line summary primer on what Interior is all about and why it's so pivotal to every part of our lives.
Great lead in, Adam. And again, it is literally the ground we walk on because Interior manages the public lands of America. But when you add them all up, it's over 500 million acres of surface. We also manage the subsurface where we've been blessed with this glorious abundance of minerals. That's over 700 million acres of subsurface. The difference between those two is about 200 million acres that are part of the U.S. Forest Service. And then we also manage the offshore, which a lot of folks don't understand. But if you take the offshore around all of Alaska, around both of our coasts, the Gulf of America, and then you throw in the territories, which are part of Interior, it's over 3 billion acres of offshore undersea resources that are also under the management of Interior. If Interior was a standalone company, it would have the largest balance sheet in the world. No one else would even come close. It is all the things that we need, the food you eat, the gas in your car, the clothes on your back, all of those have got a nexus that come back to this just incredible bounty of public lands that America holds.
So when you look across the landscape today, Mr. Secretary, what's kind of the biggest nut to crack that you're going after? And on the other side of it, what are the biggest opportunities the country has that maybe we haven't taken full advantage of yet?
Well, I think it all starts with the mindset. And I've always approached life with a mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And the way you achieve abundance is with innovation, not with regulation. Regulation is awfully well-intended, but has horrible long-term impacts in the sense that people think I'm going to save something, but you might be precluding the thing which has always been the source of American greatness, which is innovation, the new things that are coming. And I think with the abundance mindset that we have, we can protect all of our last best places. We can take care of our lands for future generations. We can do all of those things, but at the same time, we can also produce energy, produce critical minerals, make sure that we've got national security, we've got supply chains. We can do all of those things. But what's happened in our country is we've lost perhaps both the spirit and the mechanisms to build great things well and build them quickly. Today, if someone is trying to build a transmission line, a pipeline, the weaponization of the regulations in this country, like the Endangered Species Act or the Environmental Protection Act, these things go way beyond their original intent. And we've weaponized it in a way where it's become a business. There's actually like an industrial complex of how to stop building stuff in America.
I know.
And
right.
We're competing with China in a race on who can produce the most electricity to win the AI arms race. And if we can't build stuff in this country, we lose, and that has huge implications. So again, my role leading Interior is to demonstrate what we did in North Dakota in those 8 years. We grew our economy. We had the fastest growing GDP in the country. We became a powerhouse of energy production. And at the same time, we were always on the top of the list, cleanest air, cleanest water. I mean, you can do both of these things. And I think, again, there's been an activation around these business models. Be afraid of XYZ industry. They're going to ruin, ABC natural resource. Send us a check and we'll stop them. It's a business, and social media is perfect for activating anger and fear, and they're able to generate a lot of revenue from this business model. But that business model of stopping building things is actually an endanger to our future and future generations, because we need to keep building, we need to keep innovating.
Well, clearly, this president is in go mode. Instead of stopping things, it's like, let's saddle up and get going, right? We recently had on the show the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, who talked about the intersect, and you've touched on this already, between AI and energy independence. How are we doing on that front? And in terms of critical assets, which the president has really put a big emphasis on, how much more do we need to do to feel secure from foreign interests who at any point, if they control supply, can turn off the spigot?
Well, we're having this conversation in an auspicious time, because just 2 weeks ago, the Chinese announced that they were putting in force a law that had export controls to all countries and all companies of anybody that used any of the rare earth minerals from China. Well, it turns out China has systematically, over the last couple decades, corralled and cornered the market. 85 to 100% of the refining of these rare earth minerals or critical minerals. And they just said, oh, we're going to put on export controls. Sounds innocent. The export controls effectively would have been the largest intelligence gathering effort ever attempted in humanity and in our existence. Every company, every product, you've got to tell China, is it used commercial? Is it defense? This is the kind of information that not even a Wall Street analyst would get if they were trying to review two companies. So thankfully, with the negotiations and leadership of President Trump, China has agreed to put those export controls on a pause for 12 months. We've got ourselves in a situation where in this one particular area of critical minerals, we are at great risk, our national security, because you need these materials for defense, for aerospace, for electronics. You need them for every cell phone, you need them for every laptop, for every iPad. Our economy can't run without them, but we talked ourselves into, over a period of years, let's stop mining in America and let's just have somebody else do it. Well, when we offshore things with the idea that that's going to save the environment, and then you offshore it to a country like China that has been tearing up Indonesia, the Congo, they do it without reclamation, they do it without, perhaps they're using child labor. No care whatsoever for the environment in some other country. That's not saving the planet. And so I would just, again, appeal to everybody. If you care about the environment, then you would want to have every mine, every oil and gas production, every data center, you'd want them here in the U.S. because we do it cleaner, safer, smarter than any place else in the world. If you want to protect the environment, then let the country that has done the most in terms of reduction and care of the environment and reduction of emissions, let them do the job, as opposed to giving it to the country that's done the least along those lines.
Do you think Americans in general really get that? Because the way you just explained it, I kind of want to get up out of my chair and really start to go for it, because you can argue we've been asleep at the switch for far too long. And this is our opportunity to get back on our game.
Absolutely, Adam. And I would say we've been asleep at the switch, but we're up against a competitor that set a long-term strategic plan. China knew 30 years ago they have no oil and gas. So every day, China is the world's largest importer of gas, oil, and coal to run their country. They're one of the largest importers of food. They don't have enough food to feed the 1.2 billion people. So they have no energy security and they have no food security. So what did they decide when they said, wow, those are big risks. We can't fix those, in a year or a decade or 2 decades, but we could corner the market on rare earth minerals. We could do that. And so then that was their lever in the negotiations. And we not only fell asleep at the switch, we also lulled ourselves into believing that if we offshored all of these activities, that was the right thing to do. Mining was stopped in America, not because we didn't need the material. It was stopped largely because of concerns by some of these movements in our own country. And now I see, people are waking up. Bill Gates putting out a statement saying, wow, climate change is not going to be the end of humanity. It matters, but it's not the end of the humanity. It's not the highest order thing. Maybe we should worry about saving the lives of children in Africa today, as opposed to worrying about 1 degree of climate change in 2100. So the world is starting to shift, and I think the messaging is getting out. And again, for American national security, we have got to get back into producing and refining those minerals here. We do not have stockpiles of critical minerals. So we've got to be stockpiling those. We've got to have that capability here. We've got to onshore the things that we sent offshore.
You served 2 terms as governor. You did amazing things in the state of North Dakota, including a lot of things having to do with tribal nations, which we could spend a whole program on. You're now representing 70,000 employees, right? And you gave them a message. You said, basically, I want to cut the red tape and put, as you said before, innovation ahead of regulation. How was that received?
It's certainly been a change of direction for some folks that just believe this is the way we've always done it. But permitting reform is a huge opportunity. It's one of the things that has been used to slow down America. It raises the cost of everything. And it's just completely unnecessary. It doesn't, long periods of time, of taking 2 years to get through an environmental impact statement, an EIS, 1 year to get through an environmental assessment. Those were the stated goals. And in reality, if there was legal challenges, just double the time frame. So someone's trying to build something that benefits a community, benefits society, increases productivity, and then they spend 4 years trying to find out whether they're going to get a permit or not. Well, that just plugs up the capital that would have been dedicated for that. And that capital, that investment just sits on the sideline. Slow permitting is a cost. It's not a benefit. So we challenged ourselves, the team here, and said, well, what would it look like if you just cut out all the little time periods where there's no value added in the stream of that process? If you can cut out the mind-numbing, soul-sucking work of shoving paper around, you lift up that individual's life and the customers that they're working with.
So I had to ask, because a lot of people kind of lived through this moment in your life, and of course it was all in the fishbowl of the public arena. Back in 24, when you were campaigning for president and you were preparing for a debate, and you're an athlete. You love mountain climbing, water skiing, basketball in particular. You play a pickup basketball game, you get a little hurt, and now you got to play hurt before a national audience, right? With all the chips on the table, so to speak. What were you thinking as you started to move from what you thought was going to be just kind of a nice, easy pre-debate exercise to, oh my God, can I stand up in this debate for 90 minutes and hold my own?
Yeah, it was an interesting moment in life. I, played basketball competitively for 50 years and couldn't pass up the chance to go to Marquette, great basketball school. They said, hey, we got a shot at the gym. You can go over there 24 hours before the debate. This will be a great way to unwind. And I didn't get a little hurt. I mean, I entirely blew my Achilles.
Wow.
And so that was an interesting moment where you're like, okay, how's this going to go? But I'm happy to say when I look on the back end of that thing, it was voted the best presidential debate performance ever by someone standing on one leg. So I'm in the record books. But for the behind the scenes for your listeners, the debate was in the stadium where the Milwaukee Bucks played. So you're in front of a live audience there,
right.
But they build a stage on where the gym floor would be.
Right.
Well, that stage is like 5 or 6 steps up. And there's no bathrooms in the middle of the gym floor. So even for the other debate folks, they just behind the screens there, you got a 3-minute TV break. There's some porta potties back there that people are, running out to and back in. I can't get there on a pair of crutches. So then the other thing was, at a time when people are saying, drink plenty of fluids,
right.
You're injured. You're like, no, I'm going to be standing out here for 90 minutes. So then everybody leaves the stage and then I'm standing there because most guys would come in that would have done this before. Oh, where's the camera shot? Where do I look? You've been involved in lots of campaigns. You know how these debates work. Everybody's trying to figure out. I had one question, which is, are these podiums bolted to the floor? And they're like, yes, they are. And I said, really? I thought they were kidding. And they said, nope, they're 4 feet, measured to the 1/8 of an inch. And I said, why is that? And they said, well, one time we had someone who kept moving his podium closer to one of his competitors. So they're bolted there. So anyway, I was basically 1 leg and 2 arms for 90 minutes. Our daughter's in theater, and she had said to me that phrase, break a leg. And I guess I took
did it.
I took her too seriously.
As someone who also ruptured his Achilles playing competitive soccer, I can relate. I can tell you did awfully well that night on 1 leg. Imagine what America would have seen on 2 healthy legs. So I just want to close it out by saying this. There was a football game recently with the Green Bay Packers and a great tight end, Tucker Kraft, who comes from that other Dakota. They cut away a number of times to a restaurant in that town. I think it was Timberlake. And how proud the people were in that cafe of Tucker Kraft and what he's doing on the football field. I can tell you that all of America, especially in rural America, is very proud of you, Mr. Secretary, for the way you've conducted yourself, your life, what you're doing, and bringing really a small town perspective to a big town mentality here in Washington, D.C. I think we all like the fact that because you served as governor, because you had this background, because you were once a chimney sweep, that we really have in you, an authentic player who is determined to follow through on the president's mission, which is to fundamentally reimagine government so we can do things better and make people more prosperous and better off and our future more secure than ever before.
Well, Adam, that means a lot. I appreciate that. And I'm thinking about all my friends back home. It was such an honor to serve as the governor of a state that you grew up and love. And we got lots of small towns like we have in North Dakota across this country. I've had a chance to visit a lot of them, but it's a heart and soul of America. And President Trump may have spent his life as a real estate developer in New York, but he's got a lot of common sense. And I think that's why people in rural America, love him and love what he's doing, is because he's cutting through it all and getting stuff done. And he's doing it for the American people. And we have an opportunity to really transform the world. And that's pretty exciting to be part of that. And it's exciting for me to know that North Dakota has been part of that. The last thing I would say is just looking ahead next year, one of the great things about the Secretary of Interior is you're deeply involved in America 250. I mean, all of the national parks across the country, icons like the Statue of Liberty, Independence Hall in Philadelphia, here on the National Mall. So we got this great thing. But in between next year, I would invite you, Adam. We're opening a presidential library for Theodore Roosevelt at the entrance to the Theodore Roosevelt National Park next year. It's going to be a 5-day celebration, July 1 through July 5. It's going to be a great year for America, but it's certainly going to be a great year for people that love the outdoors and love this incredible bounty of resources that that President Roosevelt left behind for us.
You know the expression, love what you do and be good at what you love. You personify both. We really appreciate your time. Godspeed on everything you're doing. I'm circling that date on my calendar. I don't want to miss that or anything else that really celebrates not only America's heritage, but what makes us so unique and different from any other country on earth.
Great. Well, Adam, thank you for all you've done. If you don't know Adam's background, dig into it, because this guy's a difference maker. We need more people like Adam on this planet.
I think we need to continue this interview now. I'm sorry. We have to extend. No, take care of yourself. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.